everyone, and welcome to this talk on how we get mainstream gamers excited about non-fungible tokens, like, if I can just skip ahead here, like this guy from our game, Sword. My name is Sune Thorsen. I am the founder, one of the co-founders and the CMO of SoCouch Studios, and we're working on an upcoming fantasy MMORPG called Sword, where we use the blockchain to tokenize ownership of land in the game, of all cosmetics in the game, and also to control the control the premium currency in the game, which is a fungible ERC20 token in our case. So we're just now getting we've gotten started on development, and we're just about to get into our funding round. And this conversation here is going to be a marketing and community-oriented talk. Where we're going to dive into some of our experiences from answering over 400 questions from mainstream gamers over on the Android gaming, the MMORPG, and the gamer news subreddits. And these were questions that we received after releasing the reveal teaser for our game back in October 2018. So these are actual questions, and I'm going to show some of these questions. I have actual screenshots here with me. They're anonymized, just because I didn't want to really we're going to look at some comments that are a bit aggressive, and I didn't want to show the usernames of those people. But we also have some statistics at the end of the talk, so hopefully that's going to be exciting for any of you guys out here who are working on mainstream games that use blockchain technology, because the idea is that to give you guys some insight into how mainstream gamers think about blockchain games. So let me just skip ahead here. I'm going to skip a few slides just to save some time. Sadly, there won't be time to get into this. Let's skip ahead here. All right, so when we released the teaser for Sword, it was really to lead people to this landing page that we very quickly threw up on imbasword.com. The idea was to see what sort of conversion rate we would be able to get from mainstream gamers when we did not mention the blockchain, we didn't mention tokens, we just talked about the game, just like any other game developer would, and we would see what sort of conversion rates we would be getting on this simple landing page. The issue was that very quickly, after we sent out a press release to the blockchain crowd, people on Reddit started picking up on some of these articles, and then the questions came in. We got lots of emails as well from people, lots of questions from mainstream gamers about, why do you use the blockchain? Does it even make sense? And so that's what we're going to be talking about here today. So when we initially, let's go back here. So to just cut to the chase and answer the question posed in the name of this conversation, how do we get mainstream gamers excited about non-fungible tokens and your blockchain games? Well, one option is to not mention the blockchain at all, because mainstream gamers, and this was the first thing we learned, thank you, mainstream gamers don't care about technology. Like, we as game developers and other types of developers here in this crowd, we care, we think it's awesome, but mainstream gamers don't care. So what this means for marketing is that we have to rephrase how we talk about our blockchain games. So for example, we shouldn't mention something like, and I'm sorry if you guys are disappointed in me saying this, but we shouldn't mention something like true ownership. And I specifically mentioned true ownership because I think every single developer in here have in their pitch decks the two words true ownership, I would imagine. We did as well, by the way. But gamers don't really get what true ownership mean. They don't get why that is awesome. So instead of saying true ownership, that's a buzzword. You shouldn't say that. Instead of saying that, you should say, well, you remember Fortnite, right? In Fortnite, if you want to sell a cosmetic item, you have to sell your entire account because they're account bound. Imagine that you could actually legally trade these items without having to go onto eBay and sell your entire account. Wouldn't that be awesome? That gamers do understand. But true ownership is just a buzzword. And to just a single example here, we got lots of comments, but here's just a single example of a user saying, to what extent do you employ blockchain? What would you say to someone who thinks it's a bit gimmicky? What is the value of proving ownership of cosmetic items, right? So these are the type of questions that you need to have answers for. But the point here is that many gamers think blockchain is just a gimmick, right? But to really drive home my point about mainstream gamers not being excited about blockchain, here is 3 more comments I want to show you guys, and these are people I call the Skeptics. I've categorized them as the Skeptics. They will say stuff like, I won't touch anything including blockchain with a 10-foot pole, or, okay guys, I did some digging, right? This has the potential to be one of the biggest cash grabs ever. From what I've been looking up, all in-game currency will be bought before the game's actual release with a cap of 750 million pixel tokens, which is our fungible token, which must be bought with Ether, which is a cryptocurrency. And then lastly here, what's up with the cryptocurrency? Is it to avoid currency exchange fees or to dodge taxes? Seems kind of sketchy if they require transactions to not be traceable. So that last one is even just factually incorrect, but it's very important to have a marketing strategy, communication strategy for answering these guys, because otherwise these are the comments that are going to be out there on the internet, right? If you don't go answer these guys, people visiting these subreddits or whatever forums gamers may be posting on, they're just going to assume that this is the truth, right? So you need a strategy. The good news, which I'm here to tell you today, is that you can actually turn people around from skeptics to at least people who are indifferent, let's put it like that, or maybe even excited about your game. So here's an example. Someone who started out by saying, prepare for the other shoe to drop. Hope you guys like your pay-to-win games that require you to use a cryptocurrency, not to mention it 3 years away, in our case. Don't get too excited, guys. So he wasn't exactly excited. We turned him into then later responding with this comment. Hey, thanks for the response. Honestly, I'm a little ignorant about blockchains and cryptocurrency, so maybe I jumped the gun in saying pay-to-win. The game looks great. I hope it works. Right? So this is what you can do with a proper communication strategy, right? There's one more example here. First he said, so it's a bait and switch. We're not pay to win, we promise. We just had to redefine pay to win so that we could say we weren't. Right? Again, a critic, but we turned him into saying, could be pretty sweet then, could be pretty sweet indeed, if everything holds true. Thanks for shedding some light on it. Right? So this is what you want to achieve, right? You want to turn these people around. And you do that by explaining not the buzzwords, but what the buzzwords actually mean for your game specifically, right? So yeah, here's some statistics, okay? So we went in and we looked at these 400 comments from gamers, and we tried to do some light analysis on them, basically trying to figure out sort of a sentiment analysis, right? Were these comments negative, were they positive, or were they skeptics when they mentioned certain buzzwords? And the purpose of showing you guys this is that these are words you may want to avoid, right? For example, blockchain and crypto, 57% of the comments that included those two words, or one of them, were negative, 29% were skeptic, and then only 14% were positive. So it might be a good idea not to lead with words such as blockchain and crypto. Another one here is the buzzword pay to win. This one is interesting because regardless of whether or not your game actually is pay to win, people just assumed that as soon as we had tokens, right? As soon as we had tokens, that must necessarily mean that the game is pay to win. You can see that 50% were negative, and I couldn't even have made up a better looking chart than this, but these were actually the comments. 50% were negative, exactly 25% were positive, exactly 25% were skeptic. Especially if you have land ownership in your game, like Decentraland and like we do and other projects do as well. If you have land ownership, make sure to very specifically explain why that doesn't make your game pay to win, unless it does, of course, and then maybe you shouldn't talk too much about it. Then the last one is true ownership, right? As I mentioned before, this is better, right? 64% are positive, but still 27% are negative and 9% skeptic. So you should maybe evaluate whether or not you even want to use those two words as well. Oh yeah, we have one more here, Ethereum, right? Ethereum, 72% were positive, 14% were negative, and 14% were skeptic. But something to note about this one is that when we looked at the comments, many people who mentioned Ethereum were clearly people who knew about blockchain already. So, the mainstream gamer, for the mainstream gamer, you might not want to mention Ethereum either. Essentially, don't mention anything about the blockchain. So what should we then do instead? So here's some actual tips, okay? Number one, this is basically just summarizing what I just said. Don't use these crypto buzzwords, right? Here's a comment from a guy saying, thanks for the reply. A lot of it does make sense. I hope your game isn't just another crypto bait and dump. Again, really a skeptic, right? I'm always worrisome about anything to do with crypto, right? So don't use these buzzwords. Number two is, this is like sell your tokens via fiat if you can, right? We got quite a few comments. I've brought just one comment here. You guys can read it yourself. But there's just a single comment from someone saying, basically, I'm not going to engage with the game if I have to buy cryptocurrencies because I don't believe in cryptocurrencies, right? So allow them to buy your tokens with fiat instead. Number three is emphasize item history. Item history was really a big seller for us. Like it was every single comment mentioning item history was positive. Everyone freaking loved it on Reddit. So if you have item history, basically being able to show, this item was actually owned by the first player to reach level 100. Isn't that awesome? Yes, that's really awesome because it means that not only is my token scarce, maybe I only have 1 out of 1,000, but my number 22 out of 1,000 is unique as well because it has an item history. This is something people really loved, so emphasize that. The next one is be wary of item ownership, and I see I only have 30 seconds left, so I'm going to speed up here a bit. And then lastly is sell your game, right? So make sure to sell your game without mentions of blockchain NFTs, sorry, and cryptocurrencies. That's that's good. Test for yourself. Try to do that. It was very difficult for us even to do. And then after that, you can start creating your pitch material for mainstream gamers. So instead of saying true ownership, say you can legally trade items. Instead of saying blockchain game, say item history, scarcity, security, so on. Instead of saying interoperability, crypto and NFT, say focus on, you should focus on gameplay. For example, you can control the world in the case of land ownership. Instead of, say, buy our tokens with crypto, you should find a way for users to acquire tokens for fiat. So yeah, to conclude, gamers are interested in the advantages of blockchain and NFTs. We as a community just have to learn how to communicate these advantages in a way that gamers understand without the buzzwords, and then slowly together we can start educating gamers at large about the advantages that blockchain will bring to all games. Thank you.